Well, Nancy, we're really pleased to have you here. We've been trying for 2 years now to get Disney to come and join us and talk a little bit about what you do. I'm really excited to talk about Shanghai also because it's such an ambitious undertaking for the folks at Disney. It's been so long in development. I mean, I remember being at Fortune and talking to Bob Iger about it nearly 10 years ago and how excited he was. And it's really all kind of come together in an amazing way. You have, I think, one of the best jobs in the world.
Yeah, I do.
Talk to me a little bit about, share with us the Imagineering team at Disney, what it's like. I mean, how many people and where are they and how do they work?
Yes, well, Imagineering is, a very unique place. It's we have 4,000 Imagineers across 20 countries.
That's incredible.
It is incredible. And so it's a global resource. And I think what makes it unique is that it's a very multidisciplinary group. So if you think of it as a design firm, you've got everything from special effects to architecture to media production, everything all under one entity. So our process is very multidisciplinary, very iterative, and it's just it's a complex team, but what comes out of it, the unique thing that comes out of it is clear.
And you mentioned that the core of it is in Glendale, where everybody can work in close proximity. I mean, what's that campus like?
Well, everybody thinks it's a really glamorous, must be a really glamorous place, but it's really just a series of buildings that over time, over the last 50 years, have been added to the campus. So we call it a campus, but it's several blocks, lots and lots of warehouses. So there might be one warehouse that's all ride engineering, and another one that's all animated figures, architecture in another building. So yeah, we're all sprawled over several blocks.
So Disney is obviously an experience that's familiar to generations of Americans now. I'm just curious, how many people have actually been to a Disneyland somewhere? Show of hands. So even here, quite a big contingent of them. But Shanghai was like a whole new proposition for Disney. Can you tell us a little bit about just the size of Shanghai Disneyland to give us a sense of the scope of it?
Yeah, Shanghai Disneyland is 943 acres, or 963 acres. 963 acres. So, yeah, a very big development with a lot of we did a lot of brand new work there we had never done before.
Right.
So adventurous both in terms of scale, but also in terms of the invention level.
So I want to talk a little bit about that, see if we can get these slides to come up. How do you translate this kind of originally American experience into a completely different cultural context?
Well, we went into Shanghai, in a very open way to really understand this market before we really created anything. We spent, quite a bit of time researching, just gathering and understanding what the guests would like and enjoy. But we also built a creative team, an international creative team with a lot of local artists, directors, designers, choreographers, writers to help craft the whole park indigenously so that the whole relevance to the local people would be built in from the very beginning.
Now, so from the time that it was decided that the site was selected and to actual opening of the park, how many years was that process?
I'm not sure the exact day the site was selected, but I worked on the project for 7 years, and that was from the day the project was authorized to go forward.
Wow, amazing. Let's talk about some of the little details here. I mean, we spoke about the difficulties of just getting the language right. How hard was that?
Yeah, well, we made a decision at the very beginning to localize the project by working in the local language, and this is the first time Disney had done that. So for us, it was a magnificent adventure in trying to understand how to tell our stories that are our unique stories, but also tell them in a way that was distinctly Chinese. So this exhibits itself in all kinds of details. Our scripting and our narration of all the characters and all the rides are in Mandarin. All of our cast members speak Mandarin. And then when you go to do theme signage for Fantasyland or the Disneylands, we worked with calligraphers to develop fonts that match the our fonts that were themed fonts. And so that was a very fun discovery.
A lot of attention to little small details. Yeah.
And there's millions of these signs, of course, they're everywhere.
Part of the challenge then also is when Disney builds a facility, meticulous attention to construction and materials. You've got to work with a local crew to be able to do that and to translate that same ethos. How did that process work?
Well, we built a very large local team over the course of several years. We found artisans that could deliver work for us in multiple trades. And then we also had a very extensive training program to take artisans with relevant experience and relevant skill set and train them up into some of the age-old techniques that Disney uses, like our rock work and theme painting and plaster, so that we would have enough leaders locally to run the teams that continue to grow and grow and grow into the hundreds by the end of the project.
Wow. You spent a lot of time working in particular on Pirates of the Caribbean, right?
Yeah.
How hard was it to translate that experience into something that would make sense in China?
It was hard, but it was huge fun. I think we originally started this park thinking we would bring the Pirates of the Caribbean experience that we have created, the Walt Disney himself created in Anaheim, and bring that project to China. But in China, they were unfamiliar with that project.
Right.
And so it actually was very freeing to create something completely new. And so we went for it, and we did a very epic version of a Pirates attraction.
You were mentioning that I first went to Disney when I was in high school, and that was one of my favorite rides. But and then the movie franchise later grew out of that ride. But I think for people my age, that was kind of the first encounter with the idea of Pirates of the Caribbean. And so, you kind of remember all these little stations that you go past in the boat and down the waterfall and all these things. But you're mentioning that that's not really how Chinese guests, that wasn't their reference point because they'd never had that experience.
No, it wasn't. And so we really did something different, but because we're Imagineers and we're sentimental about pirates, we also worked in some little nods to the original attraction.
You did? Oh,
yeah,
okay.
It's our baby, yeah.
So this is a slide that I guess shows some of the materials.
Yeah, this is, when you go to create an immersive land, which is something that Disney does, you create really something that's a theatrical environment. But these are real buildings. So what we did is we went to the Caribbean and we took a lot of photos, and that's what you see at the top to give us authentic textures and authentic paint to build on. And then we translated this to be more theatrical, so they captured the humor and adventure of a pirate story, and created this world called Treasure Cove that is all about pirates. And this is an interesting bridge of architectural design and technology and theatrical design and technology, and was quite an effort to bridge. It's difficult even in the US to bridge it, but many of the architects that we worked with locally had never done anything like this, so convincing people to build something crooked and old-looking took a lot of interaction. Yeah.
And most of these capabilities for the materials you actually have in-house and tend not to outsource to agencies and other?
Well, there's, over the years, Disney has tried and tested a lot of materials, so there's a confidence in, certain materials and techniques. But we also discovered quite a few new ways of doing things in China that we had never thought of. So,
interesting.
Yeah.
This is what gives us a kind of feeling of the big ship battle. You want to?
Yeah, this is one scene in Pirates, just to give you a sense of sort of the epic scale of it, but also the nature of it. So this is 2 full-scale pirate ships, and they're over 100 feet long. But at the end of this run of water is a dome with a big that extends the scene. So this is how we got into all new technology with Pirates. So when you start blending large format media, large format sets, lots of special effects into a very dynamic show, we really needed a ride system that would do that and deliver on that.
Already, this suggests that the scale is much larger, but talk a little bit about what we're seeing here.
So what you're seeing here is most boat rides, or boat rides are just moved by pumping water. So you don't really have a lot of control over where they go or how they move.
They just kind of bump and glide.
So that means your
down
experience is kind of a looping experience. You go by the experience.
Yeah.
But we wanted to deliver an experience that was timed right at you and very, very dynamic. So we had to design a boat ride system that could be controlled by a highly sophisticated system. And in the process of inventing that, we discovered we could also create a boat that could go forwards, that could spin and go backwards, and have a lot of surprising moves. But it was all timed very, very accurately within a half of a second so that we could trigger these effects in this media. And so it winds up looking like a 2-acre clock, really.
Wow.
But yeah, it's very, very accurate.
This is essentially, you know, it's a show, it's a movie, and it's a waterborne transport system that has to move with the precision of Tokyo subways, right?
Exactly.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
What are we seeing here?
So from a process standpoint, because of the scale and complexity, we started looking for the most advanced design tools that were already out there to start with. And BIM technology is used widely in the architectural trades already. So we adopted BIM technology, but then we also tried to integrate more of the effects and the show that what we do into that, and then use it as a tool for studying the sequencing of installation and all the technologies that have to come into a ride. And ultimately, the sequencing that drove us all is filling this thing with water, because how often do you have a facility that at some point in time is going to get filled with water, and at that point your access to it is extremely limited.
Can't be changing cables and plugging things in.
So you really had to check every box before that thing got filled with water.
It's interesting to me, this is sort of analogous to the things that Nelson was talking about.
Yes.
Technology now is facilitating these new tools that enable us to kind of create magic and entertainment in ways that we've never seen before.
And a visual tool so that everybody can sit in front of it and talk, you know, from different.
Okay, so I think we've got another quick video here. What is this one?
And that's okay. This is just a detail to show you now how we use this same three-dimensional model now to plan every segment of media in this. We had 15 media segments. So this is showing you how we were able to look at the boat going by in plan view, look at the screen and elevation, map exactly what's happening on the media, how many seconds long, and what the guests would see as they went through a scene.
So you can really plan this quite precisely and anticipate exactly what you're trying, the effect you're trying.
And we were working with Industrial Light Magic on all this media. Yeah, how great is that?
Fun. Yeah, that's really. What do we see here?
So, you know, we started Pirates Design about 10 years ago, and you know, Imagineering got very excited about these new tools, and now they have taken them even further. So now that we have a three-dimensional model of this attraction, complete with all the sets and props and effects and media, why not create a tool like a gaming engine that designers can actually go into with VR goggles and experience and make calls about the design? So that's how we're working now. We're working inside of our 3D models in a gaming engine kind of tool that integrates all the other design tools so we can, it's like a directorial platform for the attraction far beyond or far in advance of us having it ready in the field.
That's amazing stuff. So I was sort of curious about some of the cultural, contextual things. We talked a little bit about this, but one of the things that I have seen in Hong Kong, where I live, is that the mainland guests, when they come, have different types of queuing behavior, right?
Yes.
You know, Japanese are used to very orderly lines. Americans are sort of not bad at it. But Chinese don't do that. They crowd and they elbow and they create a kind of a scrum. How did you deal with that in a ride that you know is going to be mobbed with people?
Yeah, well, you know, Disney's been operating parks for a very long time, so we took a lot of that knowledge with us and then did a lot of study in the local market to see where we might need to adapt. But you know, the day you open a park is just the beginning of learning about the local audience. And so we're continuing to adapt all the time. And the audiences, I think, are learning how to use our parks the best way, how to get the most out of their day. So maybe, distributing yourselves and not all going to one place means that you won't be waiting so long. And so they're starting to get more savvy about that too. So it has been a huge learning experience, and it'll inform all of our work in China moving forward.
And how has the turnout, the response been to the park since it opened?
It's been fantastic. I mean, we have huge crowds there. And yeah, I think it really has resonated and hit a note in the local audience, which is a great, great thing.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I want to take some questions, but maybe I wonder if we could just, before that, give people a bit of a sneak peek as to what might be next at Disney and where you go. Can we do that?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. A sneak peek. Got a little teaser here.
Sorry, I can't give you more.
So what the heck is that?
Well, it's a natural progression of things. And it's coming out of the design tools that we have, but also because now we have this incredible story to tell.
Yeah.
And having the tools and technologies to create an experience that matches the story is a moment in time that we have right now. So, if we can design an attraction and create a directorial tool for our designers that allows them to have a live interaction with it, can we do that for our guests? Wow. Can we allow our guests actually to shape the experience and not just be observers of the experience? So this new attraction is allowing guests to do that and actually control where the ship goes and have a battle and be part of a battle, and it's happening live. And it's reacting to what they're doing. Wow,
that is really cool. All right, questions. Who's got questions?
Oh, there is everybody.
Let's see. Do I see one? I'm missing. Come on, don't be shy. There we go. We get a mic here in the front. Yeah. There we go.
So when you're expanding to China, right? How did you build the conviction in terms of adapting to the culture, adapting to what the needs of the audience were?
Yes.
Especially when you actually move into a new country, like the taste and all that is very different. So how did you build the conviction?
Well, I think I mentioned earlier, and maybe I didn't emphasize the level to which our design team was a team that was a mix of Chinese locals and Imagineers. So we had very powerful creative forces from China, world-class designers and directors and writers and film directors who were really our sounding board and helped us shape these experiences so they would resonate. And these were artists that were already very successful in China, so they had already created experiences that were resonating. So their partnership and their advice and the collaboration was huge. But out of this collaboration came something new. I mean, it wasn't necessarily a purely American Disney product, and it wasn't necessarily a purely local product. But as I walk through the park, I can see how it's both. And I think that was the magic of it.
I mean, what Disney has succeeded in doing is something that's incredibly difficult to do. Anybody that follows the film industry in China knows that there are really only a handful of movies that have managed to be popular in both markets. And often you get one that the Chinese react to, but the Americans aren't interested in, or vice versa. But similarly with this, there were a lot of local competitors who said that they were going to be far more sophisticated about figuring out how to do amusement parks in China than these kind of outside Americans. But the design and the care and just the ethnography and understanding the guests, this really seems to be working.
And I think there's something to the strength of the storytelling that Disney has an international appeal. They're very heartfelt stories. They have a tone of optimism. they resonate with families, and these are universal things, you know, that built up over decades. So I think with that strength, you can adapt and modify and still have your core brand and still resonate with the local audience.
Nancy, this has been a fascinating, really rich case study in successful design. Thank you for coming all this way
Thank you
to
for
share
having
with
me
us.
here.
Please,
Thank you very much.